In this day and age, it's very hard to escape reboots, from classic movies to not so classic movies. And I always wonder, is it okay to compare reboots to the original when criticizing them? One of the most common arguments I've heard from people defending certain reboots like the Teen Titans Go and the 2016 Powerpuff Girls is that we're not giving a fair chance to the show because we are constantly comparing them to the original. Now, as someone who has watched and shared my own opinions towards the 2016 Powerpuff Girls in the past, I don't really agree with this argument. However, I'll admit there is some truth to this. I believe that whenever we judge a show or a movie, it's very important for us to see the show for what it is as much as we can. Even if it is an alternate adaptation of a previous work, I think that we need to be neutral enough to see what the show does right and what the show does wrong and acknowledge them, even if they were executed better or worse than in the original. When I saw the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs series, I thought the two main characters were likable and charming enough, though I didn't think they were as charming as in the original movie. They were a little more obnoxious in the TV series, but I still acknowledge in my review that they were likable. If I had said that the main characters were not good just because they were not as good as in the movies, and not because they are actually unlikable, I would be doing a poor job. Of course, at the end of the day, it's up for the reviewer to decide whether or not a show is working for him or not. Another thing I think it's important to keep in mind is try not to judge a show for how much it's accurate or faithful to the original as much as possible. Of course, there are situations when a show can receive heavy damage for those reasons. There are situations when a reboot changes certain things, certain essential aspects from the original show, and it can lead the reboot itself to be screwed up. Nevertheless, we shouldn't also judge the show's quality for how they are faithful to the original. It's okay to account it when reviewing it, but not make generalizations of the quality of the show based on how faithful it is to the source material. But despite all of this, I still can't subscribe to the idea that reboots can't be compared to the original. Making comparisons is a key element when evaluating a show or a movie. How can we define our taste, preferences, and favoritism without comparing our options? Even when we don't directly compare shows with each other, we still judge shows and movies based on our experiences while watching them. We don't magically gain the power to criticize shows and movies, it comes as we grow up as viewers. Sure, there are some certain opinions we can have that don't necessarily require us to have much experience of watching shows and movies. I don't need to watch other cartoons to reach the conclusion that Sarah's an insufferable brat, but at the same time, I used to think that The Big Bang Theory was really good at inserting popular and geek culture references for comedic effect, but after watching Community, I changed my mind. How do you think you reached the conclusion that Foot Fight is a terrible animated movie? It's because you set up high quality standards for animated movies. And while sometimes we might not necessarily compare a movie with another when we judge it, a part of our brain is saying that the movie is better or worse than what you expected it to be, and expectations are not things we project out of pure nothing. It's a result of our experience in watching shows and movies, and when you reach that conclusion, that the movie or show you're judging is either good or bad, a key component that made you reach that conclusion was comparing it to others, even if it was subconsciously. Again, I'm not saying that making comparisons is the only way to judge a movie, I'm just saying it's a key element. Another reason for why I disagree with the argument that we can't compare reboots to the original is that it's a pretty demeaning thing to ask, especially if you're someone who's very familiar with the original material. How do they even expect people to do that? There's no button in our brain to deactivate our ability to remember and acknowledge the original material. That's not how brains work. It's almost impossible not to think about the original material when watching a reboot of it, especially when they use the same characters, locations, designs, and sometimes even voice actors. And I don't understand why these reboots need to somehow be protected. They're not innocent, they took the easy route and reused pre-established material, thus allowing them to dodge the process of actually creating original material and fight to gain recognition and legacy. If anything, these people who reboot shows and movies should expect comparisons to the original. That's what they get for being unoriginal, and for me, that's how things should work. But of course, that's just my opinion. I mean, who cares what I have to say anyway? I'm just a nostalgia imprisoned man-child who can't move on from the cartoons I grew up with. Oh, and by the way, I'm not saying this argument is used against me. It's just an argument I've read once or twice on IMDb. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.